I'm gonna start recording. Make it easy.
That sounds great. Rich, Mario, Jason, good day. How are y'all?
Doing good. Thanks for asking.
Right on, right on. So is any sense of spring for anybody? I mean, is it actually, are we going to get out of this winter?
It's a calendar page. That's all it is.
Just trying to get
Oh,
out of this season without getting a cold has infected my entire household before vacation.
oh, that's good. Yeah, let's definitely have
I
that happen right
said,
before you get on
I
a
don't
plane.
I don't care if I'm sick or not. Just stick me on that plane for everybody else and put a mask on me and then get me to get me to St. Lucia. That's all I care about. I'll be sick in paradise.
And Ben, are you going to be here in 2 weeks, or are you going to be on the beach working on your suntan in 2 weeks?
Beach.
Beach. All right. So anybody who wants to beat up on Ben, this is your last opportunity for a month. That's all I'm saying.
Beach. Yeah, it's true.
All right, got some folks rolling in and got at least one new name. Hello, Mr. Allen.
Hello.
It's always been, I've been lucky enough to meet almost every partner up to this point, but now I got a bunch of other people training up and all the new Kasabians, and I was like, I don't know everybody anymore. It's like, oh, I've lost my little community.
No, that's why we still
Oh,
have these
Building the
things.
family. Family's getting bigger, let's say.
indeed it is. Indeed it is. Yes. Yeah, all my sisters keep getting married, and I keep inheriting family that I'm not sure I want, but it's neither here. It's neither here nor there. Present company. No reflection there. Oh, all righty. We'll give everybody just a minute or three to sort of wander in here, and then we'll actually start recording and stop making bad jokes. Hello, Sam. Good to see you. Um, and yeah, let's dismiss that. And Luke's coming in too. Got all kind of good folks and some familiar faces. That's always fun. It's always fun. Go ahead and we are recording. I thought I'd stop that. Well, I guess I should watch my mouth. Um,
Never.
never. No, no. It's holding back is not my forte. Um, welcome to some of our regulars. Welcome to some of the new folks. Anybody who hasn't joined us for these before. Sometimes we've got 10 people in here. Sometimes we've got 100. We try to go through and talk about any questions you might have about the platform, about implementation, about evolution of the platform. And usually we get a couple of questions and there's some good discussions. And if we don't, then we'll wander off and talk about other things. And Ben has a couple of questions in his pocket that he probably wants answered. So we will get around to letting Ben have the stage here in a minute, but it's only 1 minute after the hour. I suppose we should give everybody a chance to weigh in. For the early adopters, for the folks that have joined us early here, any questions, anything that's top of mind that you guys would like to review, to talk about, to discuss, make bad jokes about, anything? Hey, it's almost like we do this every week, Ben.
Yeah, well, party.
Every 2 weeks I get the same answer. No, that's all well and good. I'm glad there's nothing else top of mind. The platform has continued to evolve. I think we've added 4 new alerts this week. And as a reminder, some of the things like uh, Egnyte are coming along nicely in beta. So if anybody has any opportunities that involve Egnyte, absolutely get them in here and into monitoring. Eric, always good to hear from you, man. What's your question?
How's it going?
It's beautiful, man, because I'm not in the Midwest winters.
Hey, it's nice up here right now.
Oh, I'm glad
It's
for it, man.
44 degrees today. It's probably the average cross country. I was going to bring up, hello. I was going to bring up something from the Discord because it lives that Ben had posted out there towards the beginning of the year about Tokensmith, and it's coming up now because our CTO was able to, in a tenancy, successfully steal a token. Not in our default tenancy. There it was pretty well locked down, but in one of our test tenancies, it was kind of a default configuration. He was able to get that to work. And from the SaaS alert side, we didn't see much in the logs, and I'm guessing I know the answer to this already, but it seems like it's because it's more of an Intune side thing than an actual 365 thing. That this is probably something that's more of a future thing that we'll be able to monitor for and possibly see. But I just wanted to bring that up as a topic and see if Ben, if you had found anything else more with the Tokensmith stuff.
So did you see any activity when it came to like the Intune company portal? Because that's the only thing that I have noticed
that's
as an indicator. Yep.
Yeah, that's where I think it got picked up.
Yep. That's the thing that even if you steal a token and you decided, like, hey, they're using like compliant devices, you'll still have to go to that page to get the URL to put into Tokensmith. There's also a one of the guys does this piece of software. I'll have to find the name of it. Hang on a second. That he wants me to take a look at that can do some even more cool stuff than Road Recon didn't do. Let me see. He messaged me on LinkedIn and was like, check out my software. Hang on a second. Let's see. One called Graph Spy. Apparently it does a whole lot more with that refresh and access token. So I'll be taking a look at that too. But yeah, the only indicator is really just that navigating to that particular URL. So if you're going to create a rule or something, I would look for that, especially if it's not an address that is typically used by the company. And if it is, I mean, there's always, the IP filter or location to say if someone's accessing this from outside of this location or not in this state or IP address, you could alert on it. But
yeah, that's what did alert on it for this particular user was, yeah, they were using it just a VM in a data center, and that alerted it as being outside approved location. But yeah, like there was no other. There was logs that they logged in, and that was it. So yeah, it was kind of scary.
It's very clever. It's surprising the amount of data that you can pull with that refresh token. And I haven't even taken a look at this new software, but apparently he can do a lot more, like making changes in the environment. So I'm excited to try that out too. I just opted to building Legos this past weekend instead of making videos. So yeah, but that's on my list. But yeah, it's definitely very clever. I was impressed where you could pull down like all the conditional access policies with just that refresh token. And so it's amazing information.
Very cool. Very cool. So thanks for bringing that up, Eric. And that always, I always love it when, we have one question sort of leads to, oh, I heard about this software, or oh, I saw that thing. The very organic ways that these discussions evolve makes me want to wonder, was it the $1,000 Death Star kit, Ben? Is that what you were working on? Or what were you doing with your Legos this weekend?
R2D2.
R2D2. Very good. Very good.
He's the new addition to my collection. That thing was
Excellent.
Like 2,500 pieces or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, for anybody that's newer to the platform, if you have not experienced our Discord, definitely jump in there. Anybody who's been experienced to our, what we do here, we love our feedback. Anything that we can, run down with you. If you heard about something like what Ben was talking about with this, the spy tool, absolutely. Let's have that discussion. And of course, talk about it on Discord since we only get to talk here about twice a month. Ben also put a link in there that talks about G2. It's one of those review type sites. Our marketing folks would very much appreciate your frank candor, your feedback on how we're doing. If we're doing something right, let us know. And if we're not, let's definitely have that discussion. But any sort of input that we can get there would be very valuable to the rest of the community above and beyond just the folks that join us here. So yeah, Amy told us too. And if you guys haven't met Amy at one of the at a trade show or at DattoCon or something, definitely go track her down. She is a kick in the pants, and Amy's fantastic. She's one of our lead marketing people, or she's VP of marketing or something. I don't know what her actual title is, but she is a ton of fun. I don't know what your title is either. No, that's acquisition.
R2D2 Commander.
Exactly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. got a couple people who have sort of wandered in, and so I'll offer this again. Anybody have any questions about the platform, about Discord, about any emerging threats, about how to leverage the tools that we've got, or anything new that's coming down the pipe?
Can I ask my right-hand guy?
What, to remind you about something?
Well, to see if we have any questions. Ben, do we have any questions?
Do you? I don't think so. I'm still waiting on an email from you. Hope.
There it is.
I should have shut up.
No, it's all good.
All right. And Enrique, is that a moose or is that a horse that you caught on camera?
That's a moose I caught in
It-
Breckenridge on my RV.
Oh my
I didn't
gosh.
realize they had them in Colorado now. I didn't think they'd gotten that far south.
I didn't realize I had them right next to my RV and truck. A whole flock of like 5 of them. So
Oh
Where I
gosh.
grew up, they would actually our house had sort of a cantilever, and there was one mother about every other year she'd come and bed down and give birth to her calves right there outside my bedroom window, and
nice.
so it was like, yeah, we saw them all the time. The only problem was it couldn't hunt them with a rifle in my neighborhood because it was too close to other houses. They're good
There's
eating.
always
They're
a,
good
there,
eating.
there always a bow narrow.
We did. Indeed, we did. Yeah, but with 1,000 pounds worth of, walking pissed off animal with a stick stuck in its side, you have to be very careful with those.
I've heard they're very unpredictable, that you have to be careful.
Yeah, no, they are. They are. I mean, they're just a big dumb deer. And if you've ever seen a deer when you're driving down the road and there's a deer in the middle of the road, it has no idea what it's going to do in the next 10 seconds. Neither does a big moose. So yeah, they
Yeah,
are
but a deer
something to be
is
respected.
lighter than me in weight, not the moose. So
Yeah, no, if you're going to go hunting moose, you need an RV or at least a 3/4 ton 4x4. Because having hit them with a compact truck, then that means the end of the truck and the moose. And so, any case, Ben, anything else that we can talk about that doesn't involve hunting wild animals for sport and fun?
I don't know. The moose story was kind of fun. Um, well, I wanted to do this a while ago, but we've always had something to talk about. So, does anybody else have anything that they want to discuss before I jump in? Cool. All right. So, since this is a little bit more of a technical crowd, I'm going to share my screen and I'm going to show you guys something that I've started playing around with not too long ago. Does anybody here use programs like Zapier or Rewst or any of those other kind of workflow automations?
Roost, and I'm still reading up on this one from last time.
Okay, cool. So I wanted to show you kind of a basic introduction to this. And I know it's covering different software in the SaaS Alerts call, but I want to show you how to use our API with something very similar to this. It could be N8N, it could be Zapier. I prefer N8N because its cost is a little bit lower than Zapier and I can get away with a lot more. And it's also open source, so if you wanted to host it yourself on your own server, you can, and it won't cost you a thing. So that's something that I go for. I'm going to show you how to make a really basic workflow with this program using our API so that you guys can possibly get your feet wet and start to experiment with things that maybe our platform doesn't do currently that you need today, because our API can do so much. And even if our software can't, there's nothing stopping you from doing something yourself, especially if it's something a little bit more custom fit. So I'm going to start out with, oh, go ahead, Enrique. You don't have to raise your hand. You just interrupt me.
So, yeah, I imagine this is all going in the beautiful Ben library.
Yeah, it'll be on YouTube.
And how about the actual like Aaron from from Rewst says rip and what is it? Rip and or to steal the code from others. That's the purpose of the Friday calls. R&D, but it's rip and something else.
Well, and I'm trying to work with Roost to kind of come up with something very similar, but the good thing about these platforms is as different as their UIs are, a lot of the same functionality exists between them. So you can usually take what you've learned and what you picked up from a software like this and take it over to like Zapier or Roost, because they're very similar. They use even a lot of the same terminology.
Does your video have a copy paste?
Maybe you can break that with it in. So what I'm going to do first off before I even jump into my workflow rule is I do want to get my API, and if you're unsure on where to get that, if you go under our platform and you agree to the API policy, you can hit show API key here. I'm going to show mine. It'll be different by the time the video airs. So if you want to use it to get into our sales tent, go ahead and type this out really quick. But I'm going to copy this API. And then what I want to do is I want to come in to N8N and store that as a credential, because our API does require you to authenticate every single time you do something within our platform. And instead of this will set it almost as a variable, so that instead of having to adjust your workflow every single time your API key changes, you can come in here and just change this credential. So I'm going to go to here, credentials. I'm going to go to create a credential. And our credentials are, our API key is relayed with the header. So I'm going to select the header authentication. It's going to ask you for the name and the value. I'm going to show you where to get that in Swagger Hub in just a second. But I do know that our API, its name is just API underscore key. And the value will be my API key. I'm going to give it a name. I'm just going to call this SA Sales API. And then save. And if this gets complicated, feel free to watch it a couple of times, but it's really easy to pick up on, and you'll be surprised on all the things that you can automate with APIs, even beyond SaaS Alerts. I have a whole bunch of these little workflow rules personally that I've created.
Where did you get it, Ben? The key?
The key, I picked it up from right here, from the API key under settings and API. And now I want to create a workflow. So if I hit create workflow, the first thing I have to do is to create a trigger. What is going to make this workflow event happen? Now, I do know that a lot of people have requested a way for their customers or their IT staff to go in and adjust whitelists for users without having to sign into the platform, search through the people. Maybe they just want their client to have a special URL that they can go in, punch in their email address, and then it updates their whitelist. So I'm going to make that a trigger. When I click on this little plus symbol, these are all the different triggers that I can use. I can do it scheduled. I can do it manually. I can also do it on form submission. So maybe the form that I make will be, what's the email address of, what is your email address that you want to adjust the whitelist for? And then maybe I want another form field that says, where are you going? And give them an option to choose from, a number of countries. For me now, just for sake of simplicity, I am just going to make this a manual trigger. But I just wanted you guys to start thinking about that. The forms are very easy. It generates the URL for you, and you just present that to the client, and you can do a bunch of other stuff with the forms too. After you specify your trigger, all the stuff that you're going to do with our API is going to be done. If you search over here on the right for HTTP request, this is what you're going to be using with our API. So this is, you'll have a couple of different methods. You'll have get, post, patch, all these different things. And I want to take you to our Swagger Hub page so that you'll know exactly how to connect the dots. Once you go here, and you can get to the Swagger Hub page from, I think if you search under our help under like webhook, Swagger Hub will be the link. You can also get it here, and I can put it in the chat, assuming I can find the, there we go. And so for this, workflow, I need to know a couple of things. So first I need to know if I can change this whitelist with an API. And I happen to know that it's under reports and customers. If I click here, make sure that I'm on the latest version. And if you scroll down on the right, you remember all that, the terminology post and get and delete. Well, you'll see that all of these correspond with all these different actions that you can perform in our software. And including, here we go. Here's the one that we want. Post, think of this as like you're making a change, you're requesting a change. Get is I want to get information, and delete is kind of obvious. Patch is kind of weird, but it's basically just means update. So you're making a change to something in your account. So there's all different things you can do. This is only just the reports and section here, but reports is kind of weird because you think of reports as the report section in SaaS Alerts. Well, it goes a little bit beyond that, but we also have a respond APIs as well. So, but let's see, let's take a look at this and see what we need. If we click on customers, or I'm sorry, let's click on accounts. I want to do accounts. We click on this, we'll see that the API does, it does need a couple things. It needs the ID of the customer. And so, and then it gives us then this little, don't let this, like confuse you or shy away from making this. This is just a JSON file. And honestly, if I ever get confused with JSON, throw it into ChatGPT. If you ever are, wondering how to make a change, it will take care of all the formatting for you, the spaces, the syntax. So don't let that shy you away from it. But what we need is we need the ID of the customer. And I don't have that currently. So I need to find out what that is. And for my customers, I'm going to have to use a get. So I need to use a get to find the ID for my customers. So here we have customers and we have get. And what I want you to do is to experiment with this. If you scroll all the way to the top, we can click authorize. And then we can paste in our API key here. If I had my API key, let me copy it there. And if I hit authorize here, don't pay attention to ID token. It's not what you want. It's just API key. Then I can experiment. If I can close this, I can experiment with what it would look like and if it's going to work. So I can say, okay, customers get, I'm going to hit try it out, and then I'm going to hit execute. And you'll see right here in this little window that it has fetched all of my customers along with their IDs. This is all JSON. Everything you see here is JSON. Any questions so far? Am I losing anybody?
Oh, it's fascinating
No,
for
it's
me, man.
cool. Very cool looking.
Yeah, and this is the steps that we're going to take. We basically just need to get from point A to point C and give it all the information in between. So I know that I need to get a customer ID. So that should be the first thing in my workflow rule. And so if I go back to N8N, it needs a couple of things. It needs to know the method, which I know is get. It needs to know the URL, which I can find from Swagger Hub. It's right here. So when we did test it out, it tells you exactly the command that it ran in order to get this information. So it needs the URL, right? So I'm going to copy this URL. I'm going to pop over and I'm going to paste it here. It needs to authenticate because it doesn't, you can't just run this without authenticating. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit my authentication and I'm going to go down to generic. And then I'm going to go down to the header auth. And you'll see that I already have established a couple of different credentials. And you'll see the SA sales API is right here. So in theory, I might be able just to run this as it is. And the best way to do that is just hit the test set button. There we go. So I pulled in all of my information. This is in a table format, but if I want to see JSON, I can click the JSON button. If I want to see schema or whatever, you can click on this. And this, basically what N8N has done is it's looked at every single field and assigned it this little ID. It's pulled it and made it so that you can use this in other workflow rules. So any information you have here, I can take with me to another workflow rule. So I got the customer IDs. I can see that at the very top. I see my name, I see email address, I see my ID right here. This is my customer ID. And you can confirm that this is correct by taking this ID, coming back over to SaaS Alerts and going under organizations. And you'll see all the customer IDs are right below the customers. So if I'm looking at, I think it was Pinkston Farm. Yeah, so it should be what, C2R. There we go. So I see that matches up. All right, so I have my customer ID. I want to make sure that I know exactly what all these are going to do. So every single workflow step that you make here, you can change the name. So with this one, what I'm doing is I'm just going to do get customers. So this is my workflow rule, and I can test it and it'll run. It's basically did what it says it's going to do. It's going to get customers. So now I need one thing that you'll notice that you don't have with get customers is the email address. So if I'm asking a user to provide his email address in a form, I need a way to know, you know, what customer does that email address belong to? So if we go back to our APIs, we can actually pull that information pretty easily. There is I believe it's, I think it's reports customers, I believe. There's list all customers. And then there's this ID. I think we're just going to have to list all customers. Let's see. I don't know. Maybe it was users. There we go. Users. Cool. All right. So we're going to need a user and then a string. So this is really all about getting the information into our system. And let me make sure that I'm doing the right one. I have set this up in the past. I want to make sure. Also, do yourself a favor. If you change the name up here at the top, it'll save it for you, but always hit save. It doesn't auto save it. I want to show you. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit and show you the finished product, but I want to make sure I'm not wasting our time. All right, so that, and I get users. Yep. Cool. Excellent. All right, so I'm going to run this one. I'm going to do the get users. If I try it out, I'm just going to enter just a random character here. I don't need to do anything too precise. Okay, so awesome. So it's saying that I need to provide the customer ID, but I have that because of I got my customers in my previous workflow. And so now it's saying if I look at the way that the information it's provided to it, it's wrapped all of this into this URL. So if we look at the URL, the only thing that's different is this 654 that I put up here. So that's how it's getting that information and giving me the list of users that's inside of my my tenant. So if I did an actual organization, it would list all the people in there, and we can try that out. Let me show you. I'm not crazy.
I don't know if I go that far.
Constantly crazy. Okay, cool. See, check it out. I'm pulling all of the user information here. So I got my user email address, I got my full name, I have my ID, a whole bunch of other information that's valuable. So this should be my next workflow rule, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the customers, I'm going to get the users, and then I'll have my two pieces of information that I need in order to complete this workflow rule. All right, so I'm going to copy this URL, and I'm going to show you the really cool part about, I'm going to copy it all the way up to where it says customer ID equals. All right, so again, I'm going to do an HTTP request. It's going to be a GET request. I'm going to paste this in here, but since this is not always going to be the same, I want to make this an expression. And it's not changed it anywhere you can really visibly see, but if I enlarge this, I can see that I can see that there should be stuff in here, but I'm not seeing it. Let me see if I can populate it. If I hit test step, let's see what we get here. Okay, so when I hit test step, I got all this information from my previous step. So I'm going to hit this enlarge a little bit. And so the customer ID is going to be something that's always going to be a little different. So if I look on the left-hand side where this is my get customers, and I look down here, you see where it says ID and a little hand appears. I can drag this all the way over here and drop. So now, whenever it runs, it's going to completely fill this information out for me. And it's going to go through all of my customers. Every single time that it runs, it's going to go through all of my different customers and pull all the users, and it'll know what the usernames are. So I'm going to click out of this. And remember, everything that we do requires authentication. So I'm going to have to authenticate the generic type, header, and then my SA Sales API. If you're looking at any of this other stuff in there, you see headers and body and query. As long as it doesn't really say that in the Swagger Hub, you probably don't have to provide it. You see where it says -H, that's header. And there's really nothing else in here that we need. I mean, we could put this in here if you wanted to, but it's just going to default to give it to us in JSON anyway. So it's up to you, but it's kind of a waste of a step. If I go back and I test this, then we can see that it got 927 items. So it pulled about 927 users. It's only going to show you the first one. So if you don't see the one that you're looking for in here, that's okay. It is most likely in those other 926. But what it's giving us is what we need. We needed to know the email address so that we could connect that dot back to what the user submitted. And we already have the customer ID because we got that earlier. So this one is done. Let's change the name, hit users, and let's hop back. Any questions so far? Anything that is confusing?
So after you do the workflow, do you basically review all the the result of it all in this tool, or does it have like a little GUI extractor builder that you can present a different type of GUI or something?
Yeah, it'll give you a successful or failed error message within this platform, and you will also see the change that has been made in the analyze portion of our software too. So it'll say that basically it connects that API to your user, and it'll say so and so changed this whitelist or made this change. Good question.
All right.
Yeah. And so one thing that we need to do is we have 927 users here, and obviously we don't want to adjust the whitelist for every single one of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag this out a little bit, and it's going to bring up my menu, and I'm going to type in the word if. And this is going to bring up all this information. This is all the stuff that we've gathered through our different steps. So you see all these, this is my get user, this is my get company. So what if I was using a form, the form would also be in here as one of these variables. So what I want to do is I want to connect those dots. So I want to say the email address here. I'm going to drag this over. Does the email equal to what I have specified in the form? In this instance, I'm just going to make one up or pull one from, I think I'm going to grab an account from here. Let's do Andrew. But in practice, this would be a variable because it's not always going to be Andrew that you're going to be testing. We can hit test step, and we'll see that we have pulled in the output of one of these is true, and that's this right here. This is Andrew. The rest of them are false. And what's cool is we click out of that, we see we have different paths for true and different paths for false. False can go away. I don't care what happens to false. True is the only one that I actually want to make a change with. So if I drag out this, again, we're going to be talking to our API in SaaS Alerts. And we need to find out, what API we're going to be talking to, what endpoint. So for this instance, we're going to be updating the whitelist. So what this needs is this will need the ID of the customer, and then it'll need to be in this form. So it'll need to be given to the system in a JSON. So if I hit try it out, I'm just going to specify the customer ID. I'm not going to put a real one in. I just need to know where it falls in line with everything else. So I'm just going to hit 1, 2, 3. It's not going to do anything. It's going to probably give you an error message, and that's okay. But I just need to know what the URL is and any other information. So if I look at the URL, I can see that it's saying customers 1, 2, 3 and accounts whitelist. So if I take this into my workflow rule, I'm going to paste it here. And I'm also going to make this an expression since my customer ID is not always going to be the same. So I'm going to make this an expression. I'm going to make this larger. And I'm going to remove 1, 2, 3. And I need to know what my customer ID is going to be. So I'm not getting it here on this latest if. That just didn't pull through. I didn't get it under get users. I only had the product ID. That's not really helpful. So if I scroll all the way down, I got it back here when it was getting customers. So this is my customer ID, and I can confirm that with our system. So I'm going to drag this up into this one little spot right here. And it's turned green, which is good. If it's red or something, there's a problem. But this is the ID that it's going to use because it's going to know that if the email address is, this is the one that you're looking for. So if I click out of here, I do need to make a change to my method too. Remember, we always match our methods. This is a post method. I'm going to change this to a post. And again, authenticate. And now it comes down to, we've got our customer ID. We now need to relay the information that it needs. That's the query, that's the request body. So I can copy this. I can go back to our system and I can say, all right, now I want to send body. There's more information that I want to send. This doesn't work very well with our system where it says use fields below. I wish it did, that'd be nice. What I have to do is I have to hit using JSON. And then I'm going to paste in what I pulled in from our Swagger Hub. If you are only working with countries and you're not working with IP ranges, you can pretty much remove the IP range. There's really no reason to keep this. And again, ChatGPT is your friend, especially if there's any sort of syntax error. But basically what I want to do is I want to remove this where it starts with IP range. You can see it open brackets, open swirly head, whatever these are, swirly brackets, and then in a closed brackets and then a comma. And the comma just tells JSON, here's the next thing. So I'm just going to remove all that. And the string, the account email address, well, we don't want to have to type that in every time either. So let's change this to an expression. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. Actually, maybe not. I might just have to, sometimes it does that. Let's see, expression. Well, let's see. Might have to drag it in there anyway. Let's see here. Let's see if I can go on my left-hand side because I know what my email address is. It's going to be an email right here. Okay, now it changed it to an expression. Okay, good. So you see what I did is I replaced string with this variable that's always going to change. In theory, you'd probably also be doing the same thing with countries. With the form, you would give them a list of countries to choose from, and you would say US, Philippines, whatever you want, and it would translate to a country code, which I'm just going to put US. So what we're doing here is we're telling it to run through all of this information. Here's the things that you have needed from Swagger Hub. You needed the JSON, you've got it. You needed the customer ID, and you needed it within this URL. So if we hit test up, Let's see if the demo guides were kind, and it says invalid URL, and that's because I have a little quote mark up there. Okay, so if I go to table, it says whitelist were updated is true. I can see this in JSON. And the ultimate test of did it update it? I think we chose was Andrew. Let's see. Oh, there you go. We've added United States to Andrew.
All right, that's
And
pretty handy. I
yeah,
like that.
yeah. So update whitelist. So now what I want you guys to think of, and something that has been requested quite frequently, is a way to schedule and not schedule or deschedule the whitelist creation. So that is very possible with this. I did not go through and make this. I only had a few hours to make sure I knew everything, but wait is an option. So maybe you had something that runs this, and then there's another if there's something that says if there's a date that's specified, then wait that time, and then execute, and after the time execute the removal of the whitelist. So that's something that I've toyed around with, and that I would definitely I would be very interested if you guys come up with something like that. But something that we're looking at. I do know schedule is on the roadmap, but this is just an example of something that you can do with our API that our system can't do right now through like a form that your customer could fill out.
All right.
And make it look
That's
easy.
pretty cool.
Do I? I felt like it was complicated.
I'm gonna watch. Yeah, I'm gonna watch the video a couple times before I can lock it in.
Well, I want to show you guys something cool, a little off topic, but if you go into Plus and open Action, look at all the software that they can interface with without even using the HTTP. These are all things that it directly integrates with. So like I could basically, we have a little robot with Discord that does this for me, but if I wanted to, I could make a Discord robot that pulled an RSS feed and updates the channel or something. Or there's also a whole bunch of, if you go under templates here, this grows every single time I look at it. There's ones that are already defined. So like if I did a search for like ConnectWise, there's somebody that has wrote a workflow that works with ConnectWise. And if you click on it, you can see exactly what it's doing. You can look at all the actions. You can also, if you wanted to use it, you could just basically, you copy this to your clipboard and then you hit paste on top of here. You just hit Control V and it'll put everything in there and set it up for you automatically. So
Ben, Eric had a question.
yeah.
And I think you might have just answered my question there. I was wondering if like the result of the workflow you create, if we could store that somewhere, and then but I think the answer would be we would store that, maybe post that to ConnectWise or somewhere else, some external system, probably not in this platform, right?
Yeah, you could
They
totally do
probably
that.
don't give you much storage to like create a database of all the users, right? That
How
they've done this for.
How much space can a raw JSON file take? I mean,
Well, and you can look at executions here that'll tell you every single time one ran and it failed or whatnot, and you can see kind of, where it failed. So if you are looking for, you created a workflow rule that all of a sudden it's just not working, you can kind of go back in time, find out where it broke and what exactly happened.
Yeah, or I was
feel
wondering,
free to
like with that wait, like how long could it wait? And then do you, right? If you want to say 2 weeks or a
I think
month,
you could. I think you
would
could.
it remember that?
Yeah, it'll do days. Let's see, 365. Yeah, it'll do a year if you need it to, or
Okay.
yeah. I don't think so. If you wanted this self-hosted, spin it up, it's already working for you plan. I don't know if this counts as being like something that's on hold or something. But the self-hosted plan, if you're kind of a self-host nerd like myself, there's no limits on it, as far as I can tell. So but yeah, anything with an API you can interface with, though, and that's one thing that's really impressed me. One thing I didn't super like about Zapier is basically what we've done through here that you'd have to do with Zapier is called a loop, and they charge per loop. And if I looped through like 60 customers, that's 60 loops in one rule, and that really kind of turned me off. Whereas Zapier just like, we don't care. It's like, all right.
And this is pushing some data back into our platform.
Mhm.
Could you pull alerts or anything out of our platform?
Mhm.
Okay, because I'm kind of
Definitely.
thinking like Freshdesk is supported, and we do have, it's sort of an edge case, but we do have some partners that use Freshdesk as their,
Mhm.
quote unquote ticketing system.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be hard to pull. Interesting. Okay, cool,
Not
cool,
at all.
cool.
You could do a couple of different things. You could do webhooks if you wanted to. There's also a way under reports and customers. There is at the very top here, you'll see where it says it's events or something like that. Yeah, events. And this will pull
Can you
the raw
expand on
events.
what webhooks are versus what you did? Because that always throws me off when
Yeah,
it says
same.
webhooks.
Same. So webhooks basically is, I think it's basically our system throwing data at another system, whereas this would be yours coming to get it from us. And that's why a lot of people, when they're looking at our API configuration, they're really kind of like wondering, um, like domains that we write down here, but you don't have to specify like I didn't put my N8N server in here, and you don't need to do that. That's only for webhooks. So I believe that's what it is. Someone feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but I've set it up before, and I started getting information.
Could that possibly, the webhook, you set that up and that becomes a trigger to
Yeah, I think
something?
so. Yeah. There is a, let me see here. All right, starts webhook when the webhook is called respond to webhook. So this could be a respond. I think this is a trigger, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, I think this would be basically, it would be respond to a webhook. And then all incoming items. So you could, I mean, in theory, that would make sense. It would be very interesting to see how much resources responding to so many alerts would be. But it's also possible to set up something that just went out and retrieved the events. Our events are basically you can use a get right here, and all of these fields are optional. They're not required. So as long as you don't see one that says required, like has the little star in it, these are all optional. So you could set up one that ran every so often and pulled maybe you only cared about medium or critical, and the low ones you didn't want to hit your ticketing system. Then you could specify medium as one of those queries. And again, you hit try it out. Here I'm just going to hit just do medium here and execute. And here we'll have all of the, let's see, do I have any? I may not have any. See, all right. Oh, it's the date. Let's do 2004. 2005. There you go. Maybe pulling something now. No, still nothing. Am I crazy on my dates? No. Me at Gmail. Probably not going to find anybody for me at Gmail. There you go. So these are all of the events that corresponded with the parameters I set. but you can see it pulls a lot here. It defaults to only show you, I think it's like 100 events or something, but you can change that based off of this right here. This is the limitation of size. Now, if you go crazy with this number, it's going to hang, maybe even time out if you're really crazy. But there's nothing preventing you from running it multiple times. And again, with using N8N and time as a variable, you can be a little bit more specific as far as when you're pulling. It's funny, Anthony, I actually ran it by Adam. That's because we have a couple people that use, I think it's Adigy, and they have a really good API, I believe. I said, dude, wouldn't it be cool if I could just set up a temporary middleman just to pull the information from Adigy and update our Unify information? And so he's tooling around with that idea. That's like that would allow us to support these crazy, like off the wall RMMs that probably are like really low key or maybe custom built, and still allow us to use Unify.
Very cool. You look easy, man. And actually, it's kind of interesting to watch these different containers and the different scripts and the different decision trees, the logic trees, and how easy this would be to drag in other people's code and begin to just link it up.
Yeah, most things have APIs, and even though that may not all be in Swagger Hub, they basically follow the same kind of formula. So once you are familiar with one, it's not difficult to move into another. I started looking at the Microsoft Graph API. It's very similar. There's just a lot more permissions that you have to get. But yeah, pretty much. I think like Autotask, they have a really great API as well. So if you wanted to do something crazy, but if not, you have a ton to choose from just in this list. A lot. But yeah, that's something I've been playing around with.
That's something that should keep you busy for a few days at least.
Yeah, if you ever heard of like Home Assistant, or if anybody runs that, there's an integration with that. So like some people have it like they walk in the door, their lights cut on, their music turns on, and does this or that, and it's gonna all done through this like it's what's called low code, no code. But yeah, thought I would show you something that was practical.
Thank you, Ben. That's fantastic.
I imagine all managed SaaS customers get that right then.
And Aiden, yes, sir, you can have that right now. The changing of the scheduling of the whitelist, we do it kind of weird, but it works for us. Like someone will tell us, I even created a form that someone basically fills out, and then our guys go in there and they adjust the whitelist and they set the ticket due date to whenever they're coming back. And when that due date pops up, our system notifies us and we go through and manually remove it. But I am working on a way for us to automate it for our clients.
A good idea there. We had a customer not want to pay an invoice because when the whole company went to Mexico in November and they requested every employee to be whitelisted for Mexico and to be removed on the next day coming back from Mexico, they did not specify a user that's always in Mexico. So they did not say add everyone that's not there today, but when you remove, make sure you leave me because I'm in Mexico. So we deleted him and then he got blocked. Or you deleted him, he got blocked. And so that opened up a ticket and he didn't want to pay. He goes, because I go, well, you did not specify when you said remove them all on this day. You didn't specify remove all except me. So an option to recognize who was already there would be nice.
Yeah. Yeah, we created a form that just basically you can fill out and request, specify time dates. But I do know that power filters is a thing that is actually going to be real soon, but I don't think schedule is on the very first revision, but it should be on the next one. But in the meantime, I mean, I think that there's value in using software like N8N and Zapier to do this for us and just save us the time from having to sign in, especially if we can set a timer on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess this is a good time to point out while we've only got a couple of minutes here that, yeah, everything that Ben and the managed side has learned, we don't black box that. That stuff's getting out there. It's, you can see it in the Fortify templates. You can see it what we're doing here and on Discord. And I kind of like that. You know, I'm rather proud of our little company, even though we've been acquired or whatever you want to say. We continue to try to make sure that you guys know everything that we do, you know, whether it's an emerging threat or a new technology or something that we didn't develop that bolt into our systems that might make your lives easier. So I hope you'll reciprocate any interesting new tweaks or whatever you guys come up with. Definitely throw them into Discord, man. Let's have that discussion. So, Ben, any closing thoughts on that really interesting discussion into leveraging some open source happiness?
Nope. I will I'll try to pop in here in a couple of weeks and show you what the beach looks like.
Excellent. Yeah, no, I'd love to see what the polisher booking 2.0 looks like. Guys, in the last 5 minutes or so, any other questions for Ben or for me? I know you don't have any questions for me, but any other questions for Ben?
I've got another one from
Yes, yeah.
from Discord. Ben, today you posted a link to, I think it was Byte Cyber and all those application.
Mhm.
I know like a couple like Perfect Data Software, EM Client, you know, we've seen and we've added those to the list.
Mhm.
Have you seen a lot of these other ones show up as well?
Only a few times, nothing major. Like there's a couple of them that I did a search for. There was one like Spike. I saw it occur like one time in the past like 90 days, um, across 4 million accounts. So, but there was a couple of the Azure Intel gathering information. I saw that show up like maybe 5 or 6 times. Nothing major, but still kind of surprising. So definitely, I mean. I was going to be rolling them into our offering and everything as well. There's a couple of sites that I ran across that DJ sent to me that there's one's like list of malicious ASNs, but that list was like so long. It was like pretty much every ASN out there. But yeah, the apps for sure. Not often, but worth a look at.
It would be interesting to see what our dynamic cap is picking up compared to those, known ASN
Mm.
kinds of lists to see, trust but verify. Are we getting good results out of that process?
I
That's
see a
more of an
lot of
internal
repeats.
discussion. Yeah.
Yeah, I see
Yeah.
I see a lot of those guys show up. A lot of the same ASNs show up, but like as like Enrique and other guys have shown us, it's like a lot of those providers are just they're commercial VPNs. Anybody can use them, so it's hard for us to say, hey, you can't use this when someone's just popping onto Nord. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, it's juggling.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, guys, everyone here, thank you for your time. Next week, when we're Benless, we'll just focus on Moose and Legos and whatever else comes up, and we'll go from there. In the
Are we
meantime, if you guys
bandless?
have next week, but somebody made the mistake of giving Ben some time off, and
Not
he's
next
going
week, week
to
after next.
Oh,
week
yeah,
after next.
we're every 2 weeks, so he could do whatever he wants next week, just not in 2 weeks.
Exactly.
Yeah. So in any case, if anybody knows how to come up with anything that would make Ben lose sleep and want to stay here instead of go on vacation, definitely, let him know that because
Good
we
luck.
could use him here. Yeah, good luck with that. As always, gentlemen, thank you so much for your time. I look forward to chatting again on Thursday for those of you who join us, and in 2 weeks for those of you who just sort of lurk in these. Y'all take care.
All right, thanks.
Stay
Have a
safe,
good
guys.
Bye,
time.
guys.
See y'all.